to unite our districts, meaning all neighborhoods to work together?
Well, one of the first projects that I want to do after being sworn in is to have a neighborhood meeting throughout our district at various places to find out how you want to see and what you want to see in the city budget. In other words, not waiting for Miss Spagoni and Ed Shikata and all the high-priced executives coming down and telling us what they think they want, but what do we want? And I think what will happen is when we go to Shasta Hanship, when we go to Sherman Oaks, when we go to Willow Glen, we're going to find lots of strings that are going to unite us. And then we'll take that, and I hope to encourage other council members to do this bottom-up by budgeting, so that we really get the city's priorities from the people rather than from the oligarchy that enjoys running this city at a very high price.
Mr. Chu? What steps would you take to unite this district?
You know, convincing people that it's important to pay attention to what's going on is, you know, we have to outreach. We have to get together and reach out to each other. We have to find it in our own selves to find what's vibrant about someplace. It's like we have to do it ourselves. We have to take responsibility, each of us. And the council members have a certain amount of power, but it's really us, the people, where the power resides, and we have to take it back. We have to get involved. We have to come down to city council meetings and find out what they're really talking about, because the newspaper isn't really telling you. We have one newspaper in this town, the Mercury News, and it's 1/3 the newspaper it used to be 20 years ago. And that lack of information flow out to the community is why people don't know what's going on. And that's why we as a people have to take up the slack and start coming into City Hall and finding out for ourselves. And I would like to promise you that my job as a council member is to be the doorman, to stand there before the meeting starts and hold the door for you and try to get you to come in. And as soon as the meeting starts, to run down and sit in that chair and ask who, what, where, when, why, how, about every item on the budget.
Thanks. Mr. Oliverio.
We have a representative democracy, whether it's a state assembly or county supervisor or city council. And at the end, you choose someone to vote on your behalf, and you feel you trust them enough to study the issue and vote, and ideally be responsive to you and listen. And that's what we do. At the end, the elected member has to make those choices. And so what I've done all along is listened all the time, read every email, and logged them all. So now I have 8,100 concerns that came in from my district. And so then it doesn't have to be the loudest voice, but then I can actually statistically see what is it that really concerns people. Because the reality is, and bless neighborhood associations, but the fact is not everyone's involved. It's only a small portion of the people that choose to go. And we as elected representatives represent everyone. And it's important to hear from everyone and reach everyone and get as many people involved as we can. And I've done my best to write 260 online articles to dissect and share information that's not typically shared in the media.
Thank you. Changing the subject a little bit. We're almost out of time. I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions. Starting with you, Mr. Chu. Do you support or oppose the Oakland A's moving to San Jose, and why?
You know, I don't support the Oakland A's coming to San Jose just because I don't like them.
Last time at Corey, I think we were given 10 seconds to answer this question, and all I could come up with was that I voted against the land deal, which was selling the land as an option to Louisville for a potential baseball stadium. We don't know what's ever going to happen. Major League Baseball is this entity unto itself that's immune from a lot of the laws, and they may or may not make a decision whether they're allowed to do it. I know if it does happen, where they have the potential to move, and my main concerns have always been this: what's the true cost? And how do you manage the impact of something like that in the neighborhood? We saw that the Sharks came to San Jose with the arena, and what did we do there? We bought the land, we built the stadium, and we have the Sharks, and you know they provide their cheering spirit to San Jose for many, and obviously provide vitality to the downtown. And the baseball thing has to be asked the same question. It's going to be a lot different, but in the end, we really don't know until we have the proposal there, and that's why I'm always going to hang out as a not wearing the A's hat like a lot of my colleagues.
Mr. Kline.
I'm not willing to wait around to let millionaires decide whether we're going to have baseball here or not. Whatever they decide, we're going to be the little pawns in this scheme. The people will vote, and that will be the important part of that decision. What I want to make sure is that we don't spend one tax dollar, not one tax dollar at all, to build a baseball park and to have something that will not work for our neighborhoods. And the way you do that is you reach out and talk to them. And you do that now before the last minute happens. And the council member who came to the most impacted neighborhood, Shasta-Hanchett, was Sam Liccardo from District 3. And he had that neighborhood meeting, not our council member. When I'm the council member, I will have neighborhood meetings because the people are the most important part of this project.
This will be our last question, so we'll have time for your closing statements. And this is another off the wall. Do you support high-speed rail? And if not, why not? And if yes, would you support elevated structures or an underground alignment through downtown San Jose?
I think of all the things that we have in state government and all the issues in the education system, and the prison system, and the health system, and all the other things that the state is chartered to do, as much as I might like the notion of Star Trek and high-speed rail, I just don't think we can simply afford it. I just don't think it's there as a state to do that. If we were in a different area where we weren't short $17 billion, but maybe we could, but we can't. So I'm not a supporter of high-speed rail. And then to my colleague's comment here, Mr. Kline, you should be much more candid when you say things. The Shasta-Hanchett Neighborhood Association invited Councilmember Liccardo because he's a proponent of baseball tenfold, and they wanted to hear his perspective from someone who's extremely pro-baseball. And that's what they got. They got the opportunity to speak. I was not invited as a speaker because I'm not wearing an A's hat.
Mr. Kline?
The important is to reach out where neighborhoods are, where neighborhood issues are. High-speed rail is going to affect Shasta-Hanchett, is going to affect North Willow Glen, and we need to reach out and work with those neighborhoods about this issue. We need to be proactive. A city council member who waits for things to happen is not working for you. The council member needs to be ahead of the curve, needs to be out there and advantage. And one kind of thing that's important about high-speed rail is if you've seen the pictures of the way it's going to be around Dearborn Station at Ariel, it's literally frightening how our city will change. So we need to have people who are not just sitting on the sidelines saying yes or no, but advocating for our neighborhoods so that if high-speed rail comes, it doesn't destroy our city.
Mr. Chu.
I don't like high-speed rail. We have an airport, we have roads, we have one of the finest traffic control systems in the world. I do not think we need high-speed rail. I don't think it's necessary.
Thank you. And we just have a few minutes, and we have a 1-minute closing statement from each person. We'll go in reverse order. We did the opening statement, so Mr. Chu, you're on.
Folks, I really appreciate you all coming out here this evening. It's a pleasure to see you all. This is more people than I see at any of the council meetings, which is really unfortunate because the council meetings are where real business gets taken care of. And that's one of the things I would like to change when I get elected, is to have this many folks from our district come down and see what's going on down there, at least for a little while, until you know what's going on. Once you know what's going on, you can form opinions and have ideas and stuff that are informed. But until you do, you really can't. And that's what I would like to have coming out of our community, is knowledgeable understanding of what's happening and ideas that are based on the truth and what's really happening. And I think with that kind of a input from the community, that there's nothing we can't do.
I also want to thank you for being here tonight. This is really enjoyable. I've enjoyed talking with people. I've enjoyed meeting people at neighborhood associations and door to door, and it's been a very exciting experience, and I appreciate all of your attention to that. I also want to talk about one other reason I'm running. We have to end the closed door part of City Hall. Each city council member has a $30,000 fund from the HP naming rights. And our council member has, the way he does it, is he has it so that you ask him, and at his sole discretion, he gives you the money. Well, I'm going to open that process up. Most neighborhood associations never knew about that fund or that money. And in fact, what we're going to do is have a community way of distributing that money and making sure that everybody participates in that process. And we're going to have accountability for where the money is spent, so that it's not just a council member's private little fiefdom, it's a community. Because you know what? It's all our money.
Mr. Oliverio.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. So you might have received a flyer from Mr. Kline that was extremely incorrect in all capacities. So you saw a flyer that had a mug, a glass, that had my name, the capital of Silicon Valley, and San Jose, and I was handing these out to promote myself. But if you turn the glass around, what's it say? 2012 Crab Feast. Thank you for supporting the Willow Glen Performing Arts Boosters. Each council member has money from the HP naming rights that we give to nonprofits and schools in our district. And if the organization wants to recognize the council member or any donor, the city clerk must approve what's put on the item, the banner, whatever it is. And that's what this is. So I will leave you with this. Recently at a council meeting, I saw on the agenda that a housing developer was trying to buy a piece of property from the city to make their project whole. But I realized from finding out that this developer owed us $1 million 5 years ago. I deferred the item off the council agenda. I dropped the item. The developer called and freaked out. I said, write a check. And the developer will be delivering a check for $1 million June 1st at 2 p.m.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you, gentlemen, for your insights. John, do you have some words?